Okay, hello everyone. Just an update on my Wargamers Anonymous Sprue challenge for October. I think I mentioned in my previous video that Phil from Wargamers Anonymous suggested a small challenge that we might like to take part in. For any of us who picked up the October issue of Wargames Illustrated, they gave away a sprue of Warlord Games samurai models. I actually got these Ashigaru Yari, I think they're called Ashigaru Yari troops, which are the kind of spearmen, armed themselves with these long pike-like weapons. The challenge was to take the sprue. I think there was the spearman sprue, there was a missile sprue, and there was a samurai sprue you could have gotten at random. And take the sprue, make the models however you want, paint them up, and then we'll just basically compare what we've done and just kind of show things off, and we share techniques and any kind of ideas between us. So I jumped in quite early on this one and just wanted to do two things. One, just kind of have a quick chat through this sprue, and then show off what I've managed to do with it. So I must say I'm actually really disappointed with this sprue, in the sense of how inflexible it is without a lot of work, and how kind of poorly designed some of the layout of the kind of feeders into the different components are. There's 5 models on here. 3 are very kind of static, with their legs in a kind of straight pose. There's a kneeling character and there's an advancing character. You can combine the legs from the advancing and kneeling ones with the standing ones, but there's some work to kind of fill gaps and trim pieces off to make those work with the bodies, which are themselves fairly rigid, kind of to be expected because they're wearing traditional Japanese armour, but it doesn't leave much room for kind of creativity in the poses. I'm only really comparing this to my most recent equivalent, which was the bolt action US Airborne, which had you get a lot of variety out of those kits. Even between the kind of the US and the Germans and other races, you can switch out hands, switch out arms, switch out pieces, and they kind of all fit nicely. This isn't very cross-compatible, even across the same sprue. So you're kind of limited with what you can do with them. There's only 10 heads. 3 of them, I think it's 3 or 4, are expressive, and the others are stony faced. So again, there's not much variety in that, and you can't get much expression out of them. There's a few details. I think there's a drummer in here. There's a traditional drum and these kind of 2 arms with these sticks. Focus on that. I was going to take this whole piece off, try and make a kind of Lord Buckethead robot looking guy, but I decided against that. Yeah, and there's 1 sword arm. There's some swords in scabbards to use as well, but again, they're not really flexible to kind of cut apart and use in other ways. So I wasn't, again, I'm not massively impressed by this. I think I'd be slightly disappointed if I bought this to make, hundreds of figures. That was the other thing as well. As I mentioned, the feeders, I think that's what, I don't know what they're called, but the parts where the sprue feeds into the kind of arm feed in such an odd way that they affect both the connection underneath and the external part of the arm. So The alternative that you often get, as in the bolt action kits, is that the feeder comes into like the elbow and you end up with like a little nubbin, and it's a bit annoying, but you can file it down fairly easily. This is affecting both the connection, so you have to make sure the connection isn't too badly affected when you've snipped it off, but also it damages the kind of very thin edge on the top of the arms. So you have to make sure that's not damaged and round those off and smooth them out. And it just seems like an unnecessary bit of a pain to get around for what should be a fairly easy and swift build with these kits. So yeah, I don't know. I wouldn't rush to get any more of these. It is what it is, but it shows its age. I think this is based on a fairly old kit. I think this was, is it Test of Honor? I think it was the old game. It doesn't mention it on here, but it is. Yeah, it doesn't have the year or anything that these were made on. But yeah, that's kind of my impressions of the kit. The sprue, yeah, it doesn't make me want to go and get some more. Saying that, however, with a lot of work, I did manage to squeeze out quite a lot of variety from this kit, but it was a lot of work to kind of piece them together. It's taken me basically pretty much a whole day to put together the piece that I'm going to use for this contest, which is this little diorama. So hopefully I can focus properly on this and the light's okay. So excuse the focusing. So I've got all 5 models I've used on here. We have the advancing model at the back, who is plunging his spear through this samurai at the front, and I've managed to line up his spear so it's going right through him. The light's not great on this bit, but right through the middle. And he himself is stood atop this poor chap on the floor who's about to get a slice from this sword. On this guy, I've combined one of the kneeling legs with one of the standing legs. It did take some work to carve away the kind of body armour. You can see I've actually got a bit of a gap at the back above that bent leg, just to get it to sit kind of naturally, or as naturally as possible. But I think it worked. I had to do a hand snip, so I'm going off camera. I had to do a hand snip on this hand here. That's a hand swap, sorry. So he's holding onto this blade that's just appeared out of his chest. The guy underneath him has been pinned down. Again, he's using the other kneeling leg with one of the straight ones. Actually took a tip that I got from Steve from On Point HQ for, I think it's Bolt Action Medic he made for this, which is filing down the back of a model. So I don't know if you can tell, but the kind of his backside and the kind of top of his back have been filed down so that he lies slightly flatter and it looks like he's lying down. Otherwise he'd be raised off the ground by his armour, or by his skirt at the back. But he's in there, and I think that works quite well. He looks like he's kind of raising his arms to protect himself from this blow that's about to come down. I have to excuse the base, by the way. This is an old leftover base I had previously based some artillery on for bolt action, so I'll cover up those bits and pieces. This guy is actually a bit more kind of the traditional build. He's just 2 of the straight legs you would have. So this is kind of a standard standing pose. But I've put a slash across him, and again I've filed his back down. So he's kind of a character that's taken a hit and collapsed. And then similarly with this poor chap, I'll turn him the right way up. It's just a standing pose, a bit of slash crossed him, and he's unfortunately taken a quite a violent hit to the arm, and it's chopped his arm off. But yeah, this is the I don't know, vengeance or something. I'm not sure how I'm going to paint up all these characters, but obviously these two guys are on different sides. This guy's rescuing this poor guy on the floor from death blow from above. But yeah, I'm pleased with what I got out of the sprue, considering things I didn't like about it and wasn't impressed by. I just remembered one other thing actually. If you can see these hands, there's two things I can't get the focus on this. Two things you might spot from his hand. One is that he's missing is a bit of his thumb on both hands actually. The sprues, hands like this, there are a lot of hands like this on this kit that are built to hold these spears. However, the kind of girth of the grip on the hand here is perfectly sized for the center of this, the shaft of the spear, but not big enough to get over the nubbin here at the base of the blade or the pommel at the end of the spear. So with the hands you can't feed the spear in from one side of the hand or the other. So you have to kind of bend the thumbs out of the way to get the spear into this gap. Or, as I've done, just trim the thumbs down, and then you have a kind of slightly odd short thumbed model. So I don't know why they've done that, because this isn't the most flexible plastic for kind of popping the spears into. Yeah, not impressed by that. But I managed finally to get this going. But yeah, he's taken a bit of a wound on the way, and see he's ecstatic. One of the kind of stony faces I was talking about earlier, compared to this other guy. He's kind of yelling, either in pain or in I don't know what. But yeah, there we go. That's what I've managed to do with these models, with this sprue. I have no intention of using this for any games afterwards, so I wasn't going to base these up separately. So I've thrown it together in this diorama. Just waiting for a dry day. I'll get outside and prime this with the spray can, and then paint it up when I get a chance. No idea with colour schemes and things like that. I'm just going to kind of wing it and see what comes up. There are a few bits on the sprue, like flags and things as well, which I might stick onto the back of this guy. But yeah, there we go. So that's my submission into the Wargamers Anonymous kind of sprue challenge for October, and I'm really looking forward to what everyone else has come up with. If they've gone as kind of all in on the diorama, or if they've built them as separate models. Be really interested to see. So I hope you like that. Yeah, any tips, or if anyone's got any other thoughts on this sprue, I'll be really interested to hear. But yeah, I'll be back soon with an update when I've done some work on this. So hope everyone enjoyed that, and I will speak to you all again soon. Take care.